Hey y'all, today I'm going to show you how to take a super affordable cut of meat and make it super tender, okay? Y'all, prices are going up so much in the stores, and sometimes we are not trying to pay all of that to get a good dinner. So I'm going to show y'all what I do to transform a London broil into a super tender and juicy cut of meat. This meat can otherwise be a bit tough. I do have a few tricks to make it taste really, really good, okay? One way to make meat a little more tender is to use like one of those like tenderizer devices. We're not gonna use that, okay? Today we're gonna use a fork, all right? What I like to do is take my fork and I'm just going to go along, the meat like this. I'm gonna poke and try to poke a little deep, okay? This helps break up the fibers and make it a bit more tender. I don't like getting one of those devices just because I won't use it enough, and everybody has a fork. So I'm just going to go in here and poke in one direction. So I've poked all along this way, and now I'm going to go this direction. This should give you the ultimate, most tender meat, but I also have a few other things that I'm going to do to get this London broil quite tender, okay? Not only will this method make your London broil tender, but it's also going to help the marinade penetrate into the meat, okay? Now I'm going to flip over the London broil, and I am going to do the same thing on the back side. Let me know in the comments if you guys have one of those like meat tenderizer devices, and if you have it, how often do you use it? I kind of don't like having things where I only use them every once in a while, so just let me know if it's worth the investment. I'm now going to clean the meat. I like to just rinse off anything, how there was excess blood in the package. I just like to rinse it off because it makes me feel more comfortable, okay? But this doesn't have to be done if you don't care for this. The marinade is going to be a wet marinade anyway, so it doesn't matter if you get the meat wet, okay? Then I'm going to dry off the meat very well. Okay, or at least somewhat well. Like I said, the marinade is going to be wet, so it kind of won't make a huge difference if the meat is wet or not, okay? Now I'm going to take a bit of kosher salt, and I'm going to put this on my London broil. I like to use kosher salt. For one, it's really inexpensive, and also I just think it sticks well onto whatever you're cooking, especially like meats like this. I'm not measuring, I'm kind of just eyeballing it, okay? So just rub a decent amount on here. The salt actually helps break up the proteins, and it helps to make the meat more tender. So marinating your meat in salt is actually something very beneficial. I'm gonna mix my marinade in the same bowl that I'll be placing the beef in. The first thing I'm gonna go with is this Maggi seasoning. This is like soy sauce, but I think it actually enhances the flavor quite a bit more than soy sauce, so I like to use this, but soy sauce is also okay. All right, I'm using 2 tablespoons of that. I'm then going to use some balsamic vinegar. Now, not only is this going to add a touch of sweetness, but the acidity will help to marinate that London broil so well. I'm going to put in 1/4 of a cup. I also like a few hits of that W sauce, y'all, okay? This just brings out the deep flavor of beef, and it adds like a rich umami flavor. So I'm going to add about 1.5 tablespoons of that. Now remember, I'm using like 3 pounds of meat, so you just adjust according to how much, steak you're using. I'm then gonna go in here with some olive oil. Now, I use about 1/4 of a cup of olive oil. I'm also going to go in with some lime. Now, y'all, lime is better than lemon, okay, when it comes to like beef. If your meat has a hide, choose lime, okay? If your meat has like feathers, or fins, then lemon would be better, okay? So that's how I decide what to use. So I try to go with lime when I use beef or pork or things like that. Garlic, you got to use a lot of this fresh garlic. I'm using about 6 cloves in total. So that would end up being about 1.5 tablespoons of this fresh chopped garlic. And this is garlic I chopped myself, guys. This is not like from the store. This is some dried rosemary, fresh thyme. I always love fresh thyme. Dried is actually okay in this recipe. I'm going to just pull some of them off the stem, but if a few of the more tender stems get in here, you know, it's not really even a big deal. Use anywhere from 1/2 teaspoon to 3/4 teaspoon of black pepper, depending on how much you like. And then I also like to use a little bit of roasted garlic and herb, okay? I don't go too heavy with this because I have already put some salt on the meat, and there's also, you know, salt in the other seasonings here, so you don't want to go overboard. But I'm going to place the top on my bowl. I'm just going to shake it vigorously to combine everything. And now you've got the most awesome London broiled beef marinade. You can actually take your meat and put it in a Ziploc bag and just marinate it that way. And that is cool, all right? I actually don't tend to have Ziploc bags, not big enough for like a London broil. So I'm going to try to do this in a container to make sure all the meat, you know, gets soaked in that marinade really well. I'm going to just flip these halfway through. So if I'm going to do 4 hours, at the 2-hour mark, I will just literally take the one that is at the bottom and I'll bring it to the top. Okay, I'm going to cover this, and now I'm going to place this in the fridge for at least 4 hours. Okay, y'all, so it's the next day, and I'm going to prepare to cook my London broil. I'm going to add a piece of foil to the bottom of my sheet. Okay, and then I'm going to put a baking rack on top of that. This is my meat. It's been marinating overnight, and halfway through, like at night, I flipped them. So this is the one that was previously on the bottom. So I'm going to just let the excess marinade drip off the London broil. Okay, I'm just going to place it right on top of that rack. When I tell y'all this smells so good, y'all, this smells really, really good. Now I'm just going to allow this to sit and rest at room temperature for about 30 minutes to get the chill off of this, and also a lot of the excess marinade will just kind of drip down and get off the meat so that we can get the best possible color. My oven is off, y'all. Okay, so I'm touching the rack without any mitts, and I'm going to move this up because we want the London broil to be 6 or 7 inches from the top of the oven. I'm moving it up to the second to the highest rack. We're going to put this on broil, and we're going to put it on a high broil. I'm going to use a paper towel to kind of like dab off some of the excess moisture, but I do want to leave on like the garlic and things like that. I'm not really trying to get a lot of the pieces off. I just don't want them to be so wet. I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm just lightly dabbing off the excess moisture. Oven has now been preheated, so my broiler is very hot, okay? I am going to broil the London broil on one side for 4 minutes. What you are looking for is a nice color, but also that the internal temperature is about 135. That will give you the ultimate tenderness that most people want. Now, honestly, sometimes I really don't like that much pink in mine, so I will press mine a little bit further, like to 140, but I'm telling you, the ultimate tenderness is at about 130 to 135 for most people. Now, of course, if you like your meat to move, you could take it out at 110. If you don't want to broil the meat, it's actually really delicious if you put this on the grill. I don't have a grill, so I just can't do that, but that will actually give you a really great flavor. When you take out your London broil, do not just cut into it. Cover it for 10 minutes and let the meat rest.
This is vital to having tender meat because all the juices can run out. Now, typically the edges of any meat like this is more on the well done side, which is fine. You can give that to the kids. All you need to do is cut it very thin. Cut it against the grain. As you get closer to the middle, you're going to see that pink. Mine is done medium and it is still tender. The most tender would be medium rare. Using a temperature probe will help you get that perfect doneness to your beef. Even though mine is medium, it is still tender and juicy. Y'all, do y'all see that juice? Guys, this meat is really easy to break apart and it tastes absolutely delicious. Even if you decide that you want to use a different cut of beef, I encourage you to use that marinade. It is so good. Cut this up thinly and you will have a great dinner. Please let me know if you're going to try this recipe, and when you do, let me know how much you love it. Goodbye and God bless.